Everything up in this short week. A couple things on our schedule that are important for this week for everybody to know. First is we've had a lot of success with the recycling drop-off. It will be closed this Saturday, and then it'll be back open every Saturday after that. But in case people show up, we want them to know that because of Thanksgiving holiday, that'll be closed. And then if you've got Thursday garbage for Thanksgiving, it's actually going to be collected tomorrow on Wednesday. So we've had a couple Thursday holidays with us now having twice a week service, which we had a little confusion with Veterans Day. Got a few emails, but it was good. It was an education opportunity for us to tell people that, many of which who don't even realize that they actually have twice a week garbage now instead of one time a week. So that's of course moving up. And then our schedule, of course, offices here will be closed Thursday and Friday. And the only exception for tomorrow is that the Osceola Golf Course closes at 1 o'clock. So it will be open in the morning. Another 1,202 pounds of 0% contaminated recycling. So that gets us over 4,000 pounds since we started for the month. So excited for that. And, that seems to be going pretty well, and we've gotten a lot of great positive comments. I get a couple emails a week about the great interaction that they're having with our folks out there, and that they make it easy for you to get it out of your vehicle and into recycling. So again, closed this Saturday, but we'll be back open at 2759 North Palafox Street starting next Saturday. All right, the Bayview Park, the erosion control project, we haven't talked about that in a while, is complete. Between the tennis courts and the parking lot east of the community center, and it started on November 1st, was completed on November 10th. Installed some new stormwater collection conveyance system and regrading of the slope from the tennis courts down to the parking lot. If you've been to Bayview, you're familiar with that area. The hope is to prevent a lot of that sediment from getting down into that parking lot down by the water and into that picnic area. So we should see an improvement on that. Congratulations to Project Titan Element 1, which is actually Hangar 2, specifically was recognized by the North Florida Associated Builders and Contractors with the Excellence in Construction Eagle Award. And that's Brassfield Gorey and the Green Hut team were both recognized. So it's the highest award a project can receive in a given category, and it'll now be submitted for National ABC Awards. So congratulations to everybody involved there. The public is invited to Miraflores Park on November, it's Wednesday, November 29th. Is that the correct date? Yeah, Wednesday the 29th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And they'll be doing that GPR survey as part of the Miraflores Burial Ground study. So staff from the city and the Florida Public Archaeology Network will be on site, share information. So we've been talking about that a while and wanted to get that started. We were able to get the grant funding, as you guys recall. And the GPR survey will start on Monday the 27th, and it'll continue through Friday, December 1st, 1601 East LaRua Street. But, a day to come out, check it out, talk to some folks, learn a little bit more. Will be Wednesday, November 29th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You've gotten a press release about pausing the residential property improvement program application for CRA. We're pausing it mainly because of demand. We have several applications, significantly more than we've had before. I know Victoria and Hillary have been working diligently, really speeding up the interest. So I hate to say good problem to have. We want to be able to fix it, anything that qualifies and can help people in need in our community. But we also, because of the large influx of applications, we don't want to, for example, on the east side, we're getting to a 9-year wait at this point. So we really want to be able to focus on the ones that we have. And a lot of times things change. Someone may move. It's a very much a moving thing. But we've got a new software system that'll help manage our applications a little bit better, and that'll start in early 2024. And then once we have that going, the application cycle for the districts that have wait times of 2 years or less. So I don't remember, Hillary, is it West Side and the urban core that have the 2 years or less? I know
it's West Side that has the 2 year.
Okay, so West Side's got 2 years. East Side, you have to understand, is the East Side CRA compared to West Side and certainly to urban core CRA just doesn't have the dollars generated, the funding that goes that's collected by the CRA, which of course dictates. You can't use money from the West Side CRA to fix a house in the East Side CRA. So it's a little bit limited in what we can do in the East Side because just of the lack of dollars that is generated by that CRA. The good news is we're starting the process of our CRA update. Getting a consultant on board to look at that, and perhaps those are some conversations as well as Hollis T. Williams, some conversations that we can have with them as they move that process forward. So let's see. I should have mentioned on Miraflores, there's going to be a little road closure, a section of 16th Avenue between LaRue and Belmont. So not 17th Avenue, but 16th Avenue. We'll have some lane closures during some of that work, starting on Tuesday, November 28th. So for us to be able to do our work there, it'll be just a minor residential block there that'll be closed along 16th Avenue. Last thing I'll mention, just because it's kind of that time of year, and we were joking in our meeting on Monday, this is the time where your videos are on social media about frying frozen turkeys, and we see those all the time, is just make sure that we're safe. So a few things Chief Craner wanted us to mention. This is really a peak time for house cooking fires. Just making sure you're staying on top of things when you've got things cooking at high temperatures. It's a lot of common sense, but just make sure you're around, you're frying a turkey, that you're not also then out going to the store. Just make sure that you're cognizant of that, especially with families around, large groups in these houses. Please be careful as you prepare for this holiday. That is it on my list, and happy to take whatever questions you have.
On the CRA update, is there any possibility, or is it even possible, of rethinking the boundaries of the CRA, like on the east side, making it bigger so there would be more resources?
Yeah, I've asked that question. Actually, I was having a conversation with someone about this yesterday. Do we want to look at that? There's a lot of factors that go into that, and obviously they're for community redevelopment. So you talk about whether it's a blighted area and what the needs would be moving forward. So absolutely, would we look at that? Of course we will. But the timing is right. If you are having an update to your current CRA, that you would look, for other opportunities if it made sense. So that's. There's probably some complexity to that we would have to look through, and would be case by case. Where would you extend it? What's the rationale for doing that? I mean, remember, there's other impacts to that in terms of who gets the tax dollars in those areas, and lots to work through there. But I would say, would we be open to looking at that if it made sense for the city and made sense for those individual CRAs? Absolutely.
What's the timeline on the CRA update as far as when is that process going to begin?
The bid process is finalizing now to be awarded. So we've got some time. They haven't started any part of the study or anything like that. So we're just trying to get that finalized and negotiated, and then we've got our person on board, our group on board, to be able to conduct it. So that's where we are now. Same with our strategic plan, for the citywide strategic plan. Those are really running on about the same timeline right now.
Mr. Mayor,
Mm-hmm.
our manager wanted us to ask, with the airport updates, everything seems to be on track with that, with the growth and in the community. He wanted to know if in the future, if this growth just kept continuing, if y'all would ever have to possibly look outside to the county and see if there would be another location that would have to be built.
No, not anytime soon. I mean, there's even a second phase. If you were talking really long term, there's a second phase of an expansion that could happen on the same footprint for an additional number of gates as well. So it's really going kind of out the other direction. So there's multiple years. For the foreseeable future, we are good where we are. I think, one of the benefits if you travel a lot, what I've talked about with y'all before, one of the big benefits I think is the proximity. I think it helps our beach. I think it helps our downtown. That we've all been to the cities all over this country that the airport's an hour away from everywhere that you're going, and so it is. I think that I'm sure that wasn't the plan when it started. That was probably the outskirts of town whenever it was first. But I think that provides us some value and makes us more attractive, perhaps if you're looking at other parts of the Panhandle, other parts of the Gulf Coast. That we have a few different airports around us that can't say the same thing, and so I think that certainly helps us. In terms of tourism and convenience, and probably is a big reason why we have the traffic that we do have is because we're convenient. We're cheaper typically than really anywhere from New Orleans to Jacksonville, and I think that gives us a lot of value. So we still have plenty of room to grow, and we're just really excited and motivated, very motivated to get us where we need to be, which is not where we are now.
Mayor, you look at 4,000 roughly pounds collected at the local. For recycling. How does that compare to uncontaminated recycling that we were picking up before? How much were we doing before?
I'll have to go off memory. We tracked it. Obviously, the amount is significantly more. The amount of tonnage is significantly more, and we can get a monthly breakdown because we've been sending that around as we've been looking at other options. People are asking us how much was going through, but I can get you that exact math. But I know I've done the math, and when I was looking at that on my computer, I was saying, okay, well, if you take the total tonnage for the year that went through to the MRF at ECUA,
that was not contaminated.
No, I'm saying,
yeah.
The number of tonnage period.
Right.
Then cut that in half. Then cut by an unknown amount. You're going to cut a significant portion of the non-contaminated because it's things that don't have a market that end up in a landfill, either ours or someone else's. And so, obviously, we would never be able to. The expectation would never be at one site that we'd be able to stay up with the total amount. But what gets lost in this conversation a lot, we talked about at the very beginning, is understand what was looming for our citizens was an almost tripling of cost to be able to drop it off at the MRF. So as we've changed policy, one thing that also changed was if we did nothing, there was going to be a cost increase that was going to be passed on to the taxpayer because of the amount of contamination. So the fact that we haven't had to do that yet, and we've just really kept it the same but provided a different service, it has been a value as well. So I really look at this as not, again, this process, this procedure, especially at only one location, will never have the same volume, but it will. But what I really like is this is an opportunity for us and our citizens to hit that reset button and look and really take a different look about what things are recyclable. Because whatever we do moving forward, either it's more drop-offs that are manned, curbside, opt-in for a fee, all of those things are going to be really delivered with the same principles as this.
But I guess where I'm going is trying, how can you figure out if we're doing 1,200 or 1,600 a week there, how much are we not getting?
Right.
That's still
Sure.
marketable. That's the number.
No question.
That should
No question. And I'm sure it's a significant number. There's no doubt about it. The same way when
I'm not saying it's bad.
Yeah,
I'm just saying
I hear you.
kind of what the market, if we know that we're doing 1,200 and the market's 6,
yeah.
then there may be an indication of some other program or another location or something.
Absolutely.
What's the
No, there's no doubt about it. When the fork in the road was go back to council and increase everybody's bill to do something that doesn't work, or move to this, we felt this was the best path forward. But what's valuable about this is really twofold. One is, again, hitting the reset button with our citizens and letting them know here, no matter what our future is in recycling, the new future is limited to certain items that got really, really, really far away from us. Even when the sticker was on top of your recycling can, we still weren't doing that. And that had several items that don't have a market on it. That's number one. Number two, the nice part as well, understand this still helps, is a big benefit to us as we find a larger solution, because what are they doing? The third parties that are looking at this are also looking at what kind of contamination we have.
What's the market? I guess that's kind of what if you have some sort of handle, obviously it's significant, but what kind of market for the things you know can be resold in the recycled market? What kind of market do we have?
Yeah, well, the one I know offhand, I mean, when we just talk about certain ingredients and recyclables is aluminum goes for $1,900 a ton, and just to give you a perspective, we drop off at the landfill at $45 a ton. So that's obviously one of the most significant. Steel cans also one of the significant ones. Probably of the five that we're taking, cardboard has the least dollar value market, but where we're going as a whole, if we can get to an opt-in opportunity solution, if we've got enough scale, which I'll be coming right back to you guys and saying, great, it's X dollars a month, and if we can get X thousand people to sign up for it, then we'll do it. That's going to be the next update. But also understand, the cleaner the recyclables, the lower that cost is, right? Because any of these third parties are looking at, well, what's the value, what's the contamination that we're picking up? And so just as an example, a waste management, someone like that, a larger company, they're going to analyze how much trash are we giving them versus how much recyclable, because that's helping them offset their costs of gasoline, staffing, all of that. So the cleaner this is, I'll say from what it was at the beginning, look, I would love for us to be able to make this some kind of profit center, and people presumed that when I would make this change. This is going to end up still being a subsidy. Wherever we end up, it's going to be a subsidy of the city to provide recycling. But the better quality our recyclables are, the cheaper it is that we're going to be able to offer opt-in and things like that. And we've even had some conversations that we may kind of treat an opt-in curbside as a one-year pilot with that operator potentially, and then we would all analyze how clean the recyclables are, and that could lower the price, moving forward. So that when I think of markets, it doesn't enter my head in any way that somehow what we're going to do at whatever scale is going to be profitable. Kind of funny, anecdotally, the recycling center next door to the transfer station that said, "What are you doing with all that aluminum and steel? We might buy it." So that wasn't the plan, but if there's some low hanging fruit with this very small scale project, certainly we'll look into that. But that's not one of these locations. Is not where I want to be. I want to be, hopefully, if we can get stood up. We've talked to other third-party partners that are already doing work in Mobile and other places about potentially opening the second. The second one, the most likely place would be Summit, because people are already conditioned to go there. They know to drop off recyclables. So, but we would end up opening a manned facility there. So, I can tell you the pickups at Summit have improved. Have increased dramatically, as you can imagine, since we've stopped the curbside. We've had more activity to go pick up the can there. The contamination's a little better, actually, which is, remember, that was one of the worst contaminated areas, was really worse than curbside was because what people were dropping off at Summit. We've actually seen the contamination go down, and we think that's a product of people who really do care about recycling are actually bringing it to the Summit location, where otherwise they were just putting it at the curb. And then maybe people were leaving couches in the middle of the night and everything else. So we have seen a little improvement there as we're getting more recyclables and less contamination at the Summit drop-off, the unmanned facility.
You just said potentially opening a second location. Is there a timeline in place for that, or what? How's that?
No, my primary focus right now, we had a meeting with a third party that does do manned facilities. So there's really two conversations, if you recall. One is, what is the best option I can offer to the citizen for an opt-in for a fee at the curb? That's my number one priority, right? Priority two is, and these go hand in hand. We could continue to do this manned facility or do one at Summit, have multiple, as well as opt-in curbside. It's not one or the other. So priority one for me is get a dollar amount it will take per month and propose that to citizens, what it is, $10, $12, $8. Once I get that number, And that's focus number one. So I'm not going to make any decisions on an additional drop-off facility until I know where we stand on the curbside piece, because that affects it so much. If we have curbside, well, then the activity that's going to happen at that second location is minimal. If we don't have curbside and we only have opt-in, then as you can imagine, those are going to be, that Summit location will be much more active than it would be. So it's really not fair to the operator or even fair to our folks in the city, because until we know the first domino, we really won't know the right way to go on the second. So I would say no, there's no timetable in place until we've analyzed what our options are. I think the first thing the citizens will be talking about is what's that dollar amount per month that it would take if you want it opt-in at the curb. And as I said, I've sent an email last week and should be here really any day now. They've Waste Management has looked at our all of our information, from how many pounds we've dropped off, how many customers we have, the survey data that we had that suggested that 50% of the city said they'd be willing to pay $8 to $10 a month, those kind of things. So they have that information, just waiting to hear back from them. Yep.
Mayor, have you gotten any update since the special legislative session ended from Senator Broxton on the Baptist campus ask, the former Baptist? That wasn't publicly it wasn't looking too hopeful. I mean, he said that it was going to be a big lift.
Yeah, it is. And I agree with him wholeheartedly. I think, we have put in the ask legislatively through the city. We have sent back we have received a donation request kind of form, and our attorneys worked through it and have sent a donation request back to Baptist Hospital. The number is $18 million. But I understand really what Senator Broxton said was that the legislature, compared to Baptist, the city and county, the legislature probably has the least dog in the fight here, I think is what his point is to say, to expect that the legislature is going to come through with $18 million for a demolition is unlikely. And I totally understand his logic behind that. So that means we've got to get more creative about that, how we stack capital, how we decrease costs. There's been conversations about, does the city or county put in a little bit of money? And there has been a conversation as of last week that that Baptist put in money. That it's not just the donation, but that they would have a financial obligation here as well. And a lot of our work with the donation request has really been focused on the environmental aspects of it, making sure that the city and the taxpayers protected if there were to be any issues that we don't know about from an environmental standpoint in the land donation. But we're full steam ahead if Senator Broxton is able to get some funding for it. There's some dollars from PACES that are still in play that could go towards it. There's been a conversation about reduced tipping fees when it comes to taking all that concrete, the non-abatement, concrete to the dump, to the landfill. Is that something that the county or ECUA can help with? So it's not the time to be worried about whether we get to 18 or 17.5 or 17. We think that there's a roadmap that we can get close enough. Understand that, for example, just the towers and the main hospital itself is a significant portion of that 18 million, but it's not all of it. So if we were to cobble together 14, is there a way that we could still get that going and done, completed? Possible. So I think our job right now is for us, the city and Baptist, to make sure that we're on the same page moving forward. And I know that Senator Broxton's aware of where we are with it, and he's going to do his work. He's going to do his work. Someone else had a microphone in here. To help us as best he can. So I'm confident that the senator, and he sees this not as just a demolition, we all do, but what's the vision for what are we going to get? What's the deliverable, not just what's the tactic to get us there. So I understand his concern, and also I guess what I'm saying is I'm not putting all my eggs in the basket that I expect Senator Broxton's going to be able to get back here with all $18 million. We got some work we got to do here. And we means the city, the county, and Baptist Hospital.
Has the donation agreement been amiable, or have there been big sticking points? Because it seems it's taken a while.
Yeah, I can't say yet because they've sent us one. We talked about some terms and then we've sent one back. So you'd have to ask them, I guess, depending on what they've seen. But I'll tell you, the lapse of a couple 3 weeks of that time has been a lot of it's on environmental. I mean, I think we sent back 23 environmental questions, something like that. Just again, what I don't want to do is take donation of a property and then find out a year after the fact there's an $8 million problem in the dirt. So really, once we kind of exhausted that, we're really going back to Baptist and just saying, hey, if here's what we all agree that we know, and if something isn't true in here, you're going to indemnify the city. I mean, that's been what I've counter proposed. We're not going to get into the weeds on all of this, and we're on a timeline. Alex and my office we've already put the legislative ask in before the deadline, so that's happened. We didn't need to have the donation request complete by then, but as that works through the legislative system, obviously there's going to be more and more questions about it. So we're being urgent about it, and again, they have it as of late last week.
Mayor, any update on Amtrak? I know you talked about it.
Yeah, no update yet. Where we've left it really in the hands of the Federal Rail Administration to see if we can get the corridor ID grant. Not really much to do until then. And again, that $500,000 that we would get would then really start to feed and energize, a study, things like that. Because without the 80-20 or 90-10 federal money, it's not feasible. We know that. So, and to get that money, you need the FRA to look at your corridor as one that they believe that they could invest in. So that's why it really is the gatekeeper, is this FRA grant. And even if we don't get it this time, I mean, it's a multi-year deal we could put back in. As a matter of fact, we've had conversations with FDOT and others. Right when Erica started, that kind of became her first job for our economic development office, and we had to scramble really to get that FRA grant in. Yeah. We did a great job, got lots of letters of support up and down the panhandle, as good a job as you can do in that time frame. But for example, folks like FDOT that would be willing to be more supportive if we were to apply again, that would, our application would be even stronger. We know that based on some of the feedback we've gotten. So even if it comes back today or tomorrow and that we didn't get it, we can still keep vying for it. And I go back to what I always say about this topic. There's been no promise that we're going to do it. But if I would regret if we didn't even look into it. I mean, and I think anybody in my position, you'd hate to be like, well, yeah, we just saw $66 billion of revenue towards rail around the country, and we didn't even ask. So we'll continue our ask, and we'll see how far it takes us.
Mayor, speaking of Amtrak, what's the city doing now at the station over Pineberg Street? The women's veterans thing, they vacated their lease? Right? Yes, they vacated their lease, and we're looking into an internal use. Right now, we just surveyed our staff on some potential. We're starting to have a conversation, maybe an off-site wellness center for our 800 employees. Use it that way, and again with the idea that if rail came along, which we know would be multiple years from now, not commit ourselves to selling it or to a long-term 10-year, 20-year obligation that hurts our ability to one day have passenger rail, but also not sit there with an empty building. So we're trying to find. It's a lot like Pensacola Sports, the building over there. If someone wanted to rent it from us, lease it from us for 9 months, 12 months, we would be willing to do that as we start to market that property. But if someone wanted it for 5, 10, or 15 years, we aren't going to obligate. We're not going to obligate the city like that because there could be other things in play. So right now, that's what we're focused on is internal use. There's a lot of interesting ideas that other cities I've looked at that have with buildings like this. Some have turned them into kind of maker spaces, something that could also be temporary, that for an external use to help the arts community, something like that. So we're having conversations about what's the highest and best use without putting the city behind the 8 ball if we ever needed that building back. Yeah. One more.
Go ahead. Fire away.
Mayor, where does accessory dwelling units, granny flats, fit into your workforce housing vision?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously there are areas I know that, of course, where it's permitted. I know our R1 AAA, I believe, zoning is the allows you an ADU of up to 60% of the size of the house, a AA or AAA, if I recall. But the look, I'm a big believer. I can tell you philosophically in thickening our neighborhoods. I mean, we have a housing issue. We've got to be able to have the ability to have folks, live and afford a studio-sized place, a one-bedroom-sized place. So the more ability that we have to do that, I always encourage it. The better. And I know we're going to have a very robust conversation about ADUs in even more detail as we continue through this land development code assessment that's happening right now. So certainly above my expert grade of amateur zoning, I know that they'll be having a lot of conversations. But what I'll tell you is that will be guided philosophically by what is the city's ability to help thicken our neighborhoods to create more units, for us. And so I want to make that easier, not harder on people.
Some cities have increased subsidies now to property owners who build ADUs.
Mm-hmm. They have. If you go to California, I was on a call during the Harvard Fellowship with someone that they were actually that entered into a partnership. I don't know what the funding source was, but that if you were taking Section 8 lower income level tenants, that you got a big grant or loan, or you were given some mechanism that if you were going to use the flat for affordable housing, ultimately, that you would get an extra abatement, something like that. I forget the exact tactics, but so yeah, there's good ideas and interesting ideas, at least all over the country. Some may work here, some may not, but I've told y'all, I feel probably 100 times, I'm just a believer in the fact we've got to have more units, period, here. So if we can if it's market rate ADUs that are smaller size that have a lower rent, even if they're considered market rate, having one of those is better than having none of those. And so that's why we really got to stop, in my mind, the myth and the infighting around this idea that you either choose affordable. And we've had that conversation. That's a big misnomer in this community for the last 5 years, is we vilify market rate development as if that doesn't help take some of the pressure off of the housing issue that we're in. I will take any kind of housing, and this is not a competition. It's not who gets to go first or there's more of. So anybody who rings my phone, from market rate on Maritime Park to Pensacola Motor Lodge to everything else, we are going to be aggressive in trying to find solutions in housing for everybody, because there is no negative consequence of more units in our city right now. There's none. We just need them, and we know that even at the market rate level, it creates some open units within the affordable area that perhaps people can't leave because of lack of inventory. So we'll continue to work forward on that. All right, guys, have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next week.